From scary footage of public trials to startling scenes showing how ordinary people live under constant watch and control, these videos provide a unique look inside a country full of secrets and fear. Let's take a closer look at 20 of these rare and shocking videos that have leaked from within North Korea's closely guarded borders. 20. Public execution in North Korea. Did you hear about the video from North Hamgyong province in North Korea in 2005? It's not the most shocking thing out there, but it's pretty grim. It shows North Korea's first known public execution caught on tape. The footage is unsettling, to say the least. It shows two prisoners. One is sentenced to 10 years of super hard labor, and the other is set to be executed by a firing squad. In the video, things move quickly. They set up an execution post right there in a blur, and the prisoner is tied up. Standing right in front of him are three riflemen. With cold precision, they raise their rifles and fire when commanded. In order to satisfy YouTube guidelines, we have blurred part of this footage. The guy either falls straight to the ground or just slumps over, lifeless. The video doesn't show everything clearly, but it's a harsh reality check about how brutal things can be under Kim Jong-un's rule. There are even rumors that he had his uncle executed similarly. Just imagine that. 19. Kim Dongchul. Kim Dongchul, a 62-year-old American, had his life turned upside down in October 2015. Originally from South Korea and living in the US, Kim found himself caught up in a real-life spy movie when North Korea arrested him. During a big press event in Pyongyang, he was accused of being a spy, claiming he was a major figure in a plot involving South Korea, and the US North Korea said he had a USB stick full of military and nuclear secrets, and linked him to past connections in Virginia with US and South Korean intelligence. His arrest highlighted the intense struggles between countries, including missile launches and nuclear tests, all showing the power of North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un. After spending 950 days locked up, Kim was freed in May 2018 along with two other Americans, thanks to hard negotiations between North Korea and the US. In a 2019 interview, Kim Dongchul admitted he had been spying for the CIA and South Korea since 2009, shedding light on the dangerous world of international spying, especially in Korea. 18. American soldier detained in North Korea. In July 2023, US Army Private Travis King crossed over into North Korea. Yeah, you heard that right. This move shook things up and got the US officials scrambling to figure out where he was and how he was doing. North Korea, on the other hand, was pretty much keeping quiet, only dropping hints now and then that they got the messages. It seemed like Kim Jong-un was playing his cards close to his chest, trying to use this situation to his advantage against the US. This whole situation was causing a lot of worry at the US State Department and among the military big shots. They were stuck with the tough job of trying to get King back home safely. Experts like Bruce Bennett from the Rand Corporation and Congressman Mike McCall, who heads the House Foreign Affairs Committee, thought that North Korea might use King as a chess piece in their big game of global strategy. Then, out of nowhere, North Korea said they planned to send King back to the US. They claimed he crossed over because he was unhappy with life in the US Army and with American society in general. This announcement ended more than 2 months of everyone being on edge and marked the first time in over 40 years that an American soldier had gone into North Korea without the okay. 17. 3 generations of punishment. North Korea has a harsh rule known as 3 generations of punishment. This was set up by Kim Il-sung, who started North Korea. It means that if someone commits a crime, their whole family can be punished for it, not just them. The criminal, their kids, and even their grandkids could end up spending their lives in tough labor camps because of that one person's mistake. This isn't just a law, it's a way for the government to keep everyone under control and stop people from speaking out. It does this by making whole families suffer. The effects are long-lasting too. It messes with a family's social position, their chances of getting good jobs, and their access to things like food and housing. This poor status, called songbun, marks the family as dishonorable, pushing them to the edges of society, all because of one mistake. Groups around the world that focus on human rights have strongly criticized this practice. They say it's unfair because it punishes kids and grandkids for things they didn't do, and it keeps this unfairness going from one generation to the next. 16. Kim Jong's second snowy funeral. North Korea knows how to put on a grand funeral, and the one for Kim Jong-il, held in a snowy setting, was no different. While the country was dealing with tough times and people struggled to get necessities, the government managed to put together an amazing funeral. Cities stopped moving, with streets full of tens of thousands of people who were crying so much that their tears left trails in the snow. When videos of this huge display of sadness got out, people around the world were really surprised. The way people were crying as the procession went by looked almost like it was a big show. People watching from other countries wondered if these tears were really from sadness, or if people were crying because they felt they had to. It turns out Kim Jong-un, who took over as leader, had made it a rule that everyone had to cry. People didn't just have the option to cry, they were expected to. And not just a little. Not showing sadness or even smiling on the anniversary of the funeral could get someone thrown in jail, or even worse, they could be executed. 15. Empty airport terminal in North Korea. Seeing an empty airport terminal in North Korea is a pretty eerie sight, and it shows just how cut off the country is from the rest of the world. A traveler took a video showing how huge and empty the terminal was, totally quiet without the usual noise of busy airports. No people were rushing around, no lines at security, just a lot of space. The traveler talked about how strange and surreal it felt. In most places, airports are always full of people and activity, but not here. It makes you wonder who walks through those empty halls. Maybe the occasional tourist who gets a rare peek into the country, or some diplomats and a few other officials who are allowed to travel. This emptiness isn't just about being quiet. It's a reminder of how tightly controlled everything is in North Korea. The government has a strong hold on where its people can go, and even visiting or leaving the country is heavily regulated. 14. Child labor. North Korea is known for its strict control over its people, and sadly, even kids aren't left out. The country has a big problem with child labor, and it gets even worse with some of the government's plans. For example, there's this strange idea to make skiing popular there, despite most people being too poor to think about skiing. A government minister wants to build a whole ski resort industry to attract visitors. To make this happen, they've made thousands of kids work on building these ski resorts. Videos have surfaced showing these kids working really hard, right alongside prisoners, carrying heavy stuff in super cold weather. This is especially alarming considering many kids there don't get enough to eat, which makes them weak and unhealthy. Putting them to work in such tough conditions is not only wrong, but also upsetting. 13. Camp 22. Camp 22 in North Korea is one of the most notorious prison camps out there. It's huge, spreading across 87 square miles near the borders of Russia and China, and it holds about 50,000 people. Many of these people are locked up just for disagreeing with government policies, which really shows how harsh the country is about controlling what people say and think. What's even more shocking is that not just individuals, but whole families are locked up there, which is unfair. People who used to work there or who managed to escape have told some scary stories about what happened inside Camp 22. A former official named Kwon Hyuk talked about awful experiments where they tested chemical gases on families. Then there's Soon-ok Lee, who was in the camp for 7 years. She described how people were secretly poisoned through their food, a quiet but deadly way to kill. This camp is part of a bigger network that's believed to hold around 200,000 people, including many Christians. While a lot of the world's attention is on North Korea's nuclear activities, human rights activists like Richard Spring and Mervyn Thomas are trying to get everyone to also notice these terrible human rights problems. They're working hard to get international action started, hoping to put a stop to these cruel practices hidden away in North Korea. 12. South Korean TV shows. It's tough in North Korea when it comes to watching foreign shows. Just watching South Korean TV dramas can get someone into serious trouble. For example, in 2022, 2 teenagers were given a 12-year sentence to hard labor just for enjoying these dramas. In order to satisfy YouTube guidelines, we have blurred part of this footage. This wasn't kept quiet, it was broadcasted widely to scare anyone else who might be curious about foreign media. an organization named SAND released some footage showing just how far North Korea will go to keep out South Korean influences, which they see as a big threat. After a law passed in 2020, North Korea got even stricter about stopping its people from watching South Korean media, seeing it as a danger to their country's security. Even though South Korea stopped giving free aid to North Korea in 2010, South Korean shows still find their way into the country, mostly through Chinese middlemen. People who have left North Korea say that these dramas show a very different world from what North Korean propaganda claims. The harsh punishments for watching these shows really highlight how scared the North Korean government is of letting in outside ideas and how hard they try to keep control over what their people think and know. 11. North Korean soldier escape. The border between North and South Korea is one of the most tense and dangerous places you can imagine, especially at the Joint Security Area, JSA. This spot was the scene for a dramatic event when a North Korean soldier made a desperate run for freedom across the border. It was a big deal because it was the first time in over 30 years that shots were fired at this tense border. The soldier, whose name is still kept secret, ran through a hail of nearly 40 bullets, getting hit by 5 of them as he dashed toward freedom. The South Korean soldiers didn't shoot back. Instead, they focused on rescuing him. Once he made it to the south, he was quickly taken to a hospital where he had a tough 5-hour surgery to fix his severe injuries. This bold escape really shows the extreme lengths people will go to for a chance at freedom. It also points out that the JSA is more than just a historical spot. It's a real symbol of the ongoing tension between the two Koreas, especially with North Korea still pushing its nuclear program. The soldier started his escape in a military jeep and ended up hiding under some leaves until South Korean soldiers could safely pick him up. North Korea didn't say anything after he escaped, which makes the whole situation even more intense. It kind of reminds people of another escape back in 1984 when a Soviet soldier defected. 10. North Korean defectors beaten. It's hard to imagine how tough it must be to escape from North Korea. Think about a place so closed off that the rest of the world seems almost make-believe. For those brave enough to dream of a better life outside that harsh environment, the risks are huge. Let me tell you about one family's bold escape attempt that's both touching and intense. This family, a mom, dad, another man, and a tiny 2-year-old girl, tried to leave North Korea to eventually reach safety in Japan. They believed that once they got inside the gates of the Japanese consulate in China, they would be safe from being sent back. When they got close, they ran for the gates in a tense moment. Sadly, during this chaos, only the 2 men made it through. The woman and her little girl were caught by the guards. Seeing the guards stop them right before they could be free is incredibly upsetting. It really shows how thin the line is between being trapped and finding freedom. Fortunately, this story takes a better turn. A video of their attempt got out, causing people around the world to speak up. This pressure made China agree to let the family go. Now, they're said to be living peacefully in Seoul, a sign of how resilient they are and how unpredictable life can be. But remember, not all stories of escape end well, which reminds us of the tough choices and dangers faced by those who chase freedom. 9. Auto showroom in North Korea. In North Korea, even a simple car dealership is used by the government to show off how modern and prosperous the country is. They set up a tour for international guests to see this auto showroom, trying to prove that they're not behind in technology like many Western stories suggest. When the visitors got there, armed with cameras and a bit skeptical, they found a showroom full of shiny new cars. It looked like a perfect example of progress, but something felt off. When these visitors tried to talk to other customers looking at the cars, those people didn't really want to chat and quickly walked away. This made the visitors wonder if those customers were actually interested in buying cars at all. It turned out, just before the visitors arrived, the place was nearly empty, with just a few people hanging around doing nothing. As soon as the guests showed up, it suddenly became busy. The visitors realized that the whole busy scene was probably just set up for them to see. This made them think that what they were shown wasn't really true, but just a staged act to make it look like North Korea has a booming car industry. 8. Smuggling between North Korea and China. The border between North Korea and China is one of the most tightly watched, especially during the tough times brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. With the economy struggling and strict health rules in place, the risks for people living near this border have skyrocketed. On August 27, 2020, North Korea took extreme measures by ordering guards to shoot anyone they caught crossing the border, hoping to stop the virus from spreading. But even with such harsh rules, smuggling hasn't stopped. It's a matter of survival for some. A striking example is a 25-year-old leader of a military group who, in the middle of the strictest quarantine measures in August 2020, got caught smuggling 500 kilograms of saccharine from China. This shows just how far some people are willing to go to get what they need. By the end of that month, the severe consequences of these risky actions became clear. 7 people were given life sentences for their part in smuggling during the quarantine, and their families were torn apart and forced to move, showing just how harsh the penalties can be. Even though the border stretches over 1,420 kilometers and is officially closed, it remains a crucial, though secret, channel for North Korea's market economy through ongoing smuggling. Despite the government's silence and claims of having no COVID-19 cases, these continuous smuggling activities highlight the deep economic and health crises the people are facing. 7. Moving fortress. Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, travels in a way that's pretty unique compared to other world leaders. Instead of an armored car, he uses a train, which people in his inner circle call the moving fortress. This train isn't your typical commuter setup. It's a massive 90-carriage beast that's all about safety, with bulletproof walls and bomb-proof floors. Inside, it's like a mix of a luxury hotel and a military base. The carriages have leather seats, multiple flat-screen TVs, and rooms for entertainment, all set up for Kim's comfort. But it's not just about luxury. This train is also a powerhouse of defense. It's stocked with weapons, and even has a helicopter ready to go in case of emergencies. So, why does Kim Jong-un need such an extravagant and secure train? It's because of his style of leadership. He's known for harshly getting rid of anyone he sees as a threat, including high-ranking officials and even his own family members. This has made him quite a few enemies, even among North Korea's elite who might want to see him overthrown. 6. Otto Warmbier. The story of Otto Warmbier, a young college student from the University of Virginia, really shocked people all over the world. In 2016, he went on a trip to North Korea with a budget tour group from China, but things went terribly wrong when he was caught on camera trying to take a propaganda poster from his hotel. North Korean authorities quickly took him and made him stand in front of the media and judges, where he was forced to admit to what he had done. The video from the trial is heart-wrenching. He's seen crying and begging the judges to consider his young age and let him go back to his family. Despite his pleas, the unforgiving North Korean government gave him a brutal sentence of 15 years of hard labor. Talks to get Warmbier released started right after he was sentenced, but it wasn't until 17 painful months later that he was finally brought back to the US, and by then he was unconscious because of a severe brain injury. Tragically, he died just a week after getting home in 2017. US intelligence later said that they think he suffered through extreme mental torture while in captivity, which caused the brain damage that ended up killing him. His devastating story serves as a harsh reminder of just how cruel North Korea's regime can be. 5. North Korea Unusual Calendar. North Korea has its own unique calendar called the Juche calendar, which is closely tied to its Juche ideology. This ideology emphasizes self-reliance and almost turns its founding leader, Kim Il-sung, into a godlike figure. The calendar starts in 1912, the year Kim Il-sung was born, according to the usual Gregorian calendar we use. However, it wasn't officially put into use until 1993, 3 years after he died. The Juche philosophy is a big part of North Korean culture and government, putting a huge focus on Kim Il-sung and his family, and setting them up as the ultimate rulers. The calendar was adopted in 1997, on the 3rd anniversary of Kim Il-sung's death, which also made his birthday the Day of the Sun, kind of like declaring him forever important in North Korea. On September 9, 1997, The same day the Republic was founded, the Juche calendar was officially brought into everyday life, affecting everything from government papers to TV shows. Integrating the Juche calendar into daily life was not just about keeping track of days in a year. It was a strategic move to strengthen the legends around Kim Il-sung and his successors. It's designed to deeply imprint their legacy on the minds of North Korean people, making sure that the ruling family's story remains a key part of everyday life and every historical date in North Korea. 4. Skyscraper in North Korea. In North Korea's cities, there are towering skyscrapers that reach up to 80 stories high, but living in these skyscrapers isn't as glamorous as it might sound. In North Korea, luxury means having basic things like steady electricity, water, and working elevators, which these tall buildings often lack. Jongs, who has lived in these conditions, explains that lower floors are actually preferred over the high-up penthouses. He remembers living in a 13-story building without an elevator and visiting a friend on the 28th floor of a 40-story building where the elevator hardly ever worked. Despite these problems, the North Korean government is pushing ahead with plans to build 50,000 new apartments, and they've already built the first 10,000. They claim these new buildings will make life better by being close to schools and healthcare. However, many people living in these high-rises have to use their own solar panels just to have light because the public utilities are so unreliable. As North Korea continues to build up, the difference between the government's big plans for the city and the tough living conditions the people face is becoming clearer. 3. Malnourished kids. While North Korea's government often shows off its missile and nuclear capabilities, its people are facing a serious crisis. Over 10 million North Koreans are dealing with a severe food shortage that's affecting their growth and health. In 2020, the country didn't have almost 1 million tons of grain it needed, leading to very high levels of malnutrition among children and teenagers. Reports from the United Nations show that the number of malnourished kids has increased by 50% in recent years, under Kim Jong-un's strict rule. Videos that reveal the true food situation in North Korea provide a shocking look compared to the government's usual polished portrayal of the country. These videos show rundown buildings and poor living conditions, which are a lot different from what the government usually tells people. Seeing children suffering from serious diseases because they don't have enough safe food or clean water is really hard. It highlights the harsh reality many face in North Korea and makes you feel an urgent need to help and a deep sadness for their situation. 2. Rural areas of North Korea. In the rural areas of North Korea, one can observe the lively yet simple village life, accompanied by clear signs of poverty. Contrary to the polished appearance of the capital, people here live in basic houses with aluminum roofs, and there's trash scattered around. The simple living conditions are very obvious. Most people in these areas walk or bike because owning a car is a luxury beyond what most can even dream of. What's really surprising about this footage is that it comes from one of North Korea's wealthier cities. Yes, these scenes are actually from a place considered better off under the government's strict control. While Pyongyang might have impressive buildings and wide streets made to impress visitors and cater to the wealthy and powerful, like Kim Jong-un, this video shows the reality for people living outside the capital. In the countryside, even those who are considered privileged face tough conditions, living lives that are completely different from the shiny image of Pyongyang. 1. North Korean soldiers perform extreme martial arts show. North Korean soldiers go through intense and almost unbelievable training exercises that really show their extreme dedication to Kim Jong-un's strict regime. The training they go through is tough and really hard to watch. Under the strict eye of a commanding officer, these soldiers take serious hits to their bodies. They even get hit in the stomach with large stones, showing just how harsh their training is. Despite the pain, the soldiers keep straight faces, showing their deep loyalty to the regime, sometimes seeming to put it above their own health. In order to satisfy YouTube guidelines, we have blurred part of this footage. They continue to test their limits by running through sheets of glass and breaking bricks with their bare hands. Each of these intense actions shows their incredible toughness and how far they're willing to go to show their commitment to North Korea's leaders. These extreme acts are both scary and impressive, and they highlight what life is like for soldiers under Kim Jong-un's control.